Hey crafty friends, it's Jeannie and I'm back today to share another card with you, and I'm using Trinity Stamps Candy Jar stamp set for a shaker card. So this card is actually part of an Instagram hop, so if you're interested in winning a $25 gift card from Trinity Stamps, head on over to my Instagram at Inside Out Jeans, leave a comment and you'll have a chance to win. For this particular card, it is a large image, and I wanted to stamp the whole candy jar onto the card panel, and it takes up almost the entire card panel, but it does fit perfectly. And I wanted to use the interior of that candy jar as my shaker. So you'll notice that there are candies already stamped in, but that doesn't matter because I'll be cutting it out anyway. I also wanted this candy jar to sit on the table, so I just drew in a line using pencil that I'll go over with a Copic-friendly marker later on. And I wanted the table to have some candy just on the table. So to create that shaker interior, I went in with an X-Acto knife and just cut it up in the middle. Took a small pair of scissors and I'm fussy cutting around the interior of that candy jar. And this works perfectly because there's enough space. There is a coordinating die, but that cuts out the entire candy jar and the interior, and I just really wanted the interior of the candy jar to be part of the shaker. So you'll see that I created some mask using Eclipse masking paper, and I cover up the little candies and the entire candy jar. You'll notice later that I don't need the masks for the little candies because I end up coloring the tabletop. But originally I had thought that I would use distress inks for a background and color the entire card panel, but that just didn't pan out. I did go into this card without any idea or color scheme in mind, so I kind of just went with whatever I felt at the moment. So I decided to go with a blue and green background. I'm using Salty Ocean and Twisted Citron with the Trinity Stamps Blending Buddies, and this helps with the smooth blending. And also I'm using it on Bristol Smooth cardstock, which really helps. It's my favorite whenever I use distressings because it does make blending so much smoother. I know that a lot of people use Nina Solar cardstock and that works well too. It's just I think I have a harder time getting a good blend and it takes a little bit more work. So once I saw this background, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with the rest of the card. I didn't really want too bright of a tabletop, and I didn't really want to go for brown. So I ended up choosing to color it in to make it a white tabletop. And I do so just by using light shades of gray and adding shading behind the candy jar and on the sides. And I think that works because the white area in between that I don't color really makes it look like a white tabletop just with a little bit of shadowing. I decided to go ahead and use yellow for the candy jar, and I wanted to use the same technique as I did for the tabletop where I left a white space. And as a result, with the yellow, it just looks like there's a lot of light shining on the candy jar, and I didn't even color the entire thing, which is a really cool effect. And I don't really do this very often, if at all, but in this case, I just felt like it, and so I did it. And you can see that I'm keeping all my coloring on the left-hand side and only bringing a little bit of yellow to the other side of the candy jar, but more or less it stays white. So it does have that effect. The light is shining right on the candy jar. So I kind of wanted to go with this whole leaving a little bit of white space for a reflection or the light shining on the candies. And so I did that with all the little candies. As you notice, one of the red candies on the left hand side I colored completely in, but I just used the colorless blender to kind of pick up that color and leave a white spot. So for the rest of the candies, I chose to use red, orange, and purple. And if you can't tell, it's a subtle rainbow color scheme, which I am really happy with. I didn't intend to do this, but once I did the blue and the green background with the yellow candy jar, I was like, hey, why not? Let's do a full rainbow. So I just intermixed the red, orange, and purple for the candies, and it turned out really well. And I think that the added effect of the white space coloring helps out as well because it just creates that nice shimmer, kind of like the reflection of the light. And to finish it off, I'm just adding a little shading underneath each of the items. And my shading isn't perfect because if the light is shining from the right hand side, the shadow should be staying on the left. And I realized that once I colored. So the one with the purple lollipop, I took the colorless blender in just to remove some of that shadow. And it turned out well, and I don't think anyone would notice, and it's not that big of a deal. So for the shaker portion, adhering all the adhesive around that opening and adding the acetate. This way I can contain the shaker bits in the card. I realized that part of the candy jar has the back of it, and I wanted it to look like the candy jar is see-through. So for the card base, I actually go in and create a line so it matches up with the tabletop, and I'll also add the blue distress ink, the salty ocean, just right behind it so everything is cohesive. And the tabletop's not really needed because it's supposed to be white anyway, so I didn't even bother coloring that in. And also the shaker bits will stay at the bottom, so I don't think it'll be noticeable to anyone. So when I finish doing that, I'm making sure that the line also lines up, and I'm going in with a pen just so it matches the front of the card panel. For this shaker card, I am going in with 2 layers of foam tape, and that just helps with all the little shaker bits really moving about. I'm using Trinity stamps. um, I'm actually not sure of the name of this one, but I'll have it listed down below. I'm using these little pearl shaker bits, and they move very, very well. I'm sorry, the camera keeps going in and out of focus here for some reason, but it's just me adding 2 layers of foam tape. So the 2 layers actually provides enough space for everything to move freely, and it also allows me to add more shaker bits, so it's a lot more fun. I also end up adding a bit of glitter to it too, just to give it a little something extra. So once I have everything ready for the panel, I use my anti-static pouch just on the acetate so it doesn't cling. And this is my little trick for shaker bits. I tape my card panel down and I put the bits exactly where I want it to center around, and so I can just put the card panel right on top. So I'm adding more and more and checking whether it looks good, because sometimes I tend to put too little of the shaker bits and then I close the card and it just looks empty. So I wanted to make sure that I added a good amount. So I just keep adding and testing and seeing if it will fill up the candy jar. And when I'm happy with that amount, I also add a little bit of glitter just because I wanted to add that something extra. So once I have everything together in that center, I'll go ahead and line it up. Here it's a little bit easier because I have a line on the card panel and on the base, and it's perfect. So I just go ahead and put it down and the candy jar looks nice and full. For the sentiment, this was kind of an afterthought. I had thought about which set I wanted to use and how I wanted to use it, but because the candy jar is kind of in like the 1/3 of the card, it's kind of hard to use a large sentiment. So I decided to use Trinity Stamps Sweet Sentimini, and I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss it on black cardstock. So I don't have a coordinating die to this, but that's okay because I just am going to end up using the sweet. I'm going to stamp it, heat emboss it in white on black cardstock so it pops, and I'm just going to fussy cut it out. And I know that not everyone loves to do that, and you can do it any way you want. I just went around the entire thing and I cut it out. It's not that big of a deal. So once I adhered the sweet sentiment to the card panel, I will go ahead and pull the little words on a stamp block and stamp it in black ink and stamp it directly on the card panel. I do recommend doing this before you put everything together so it's flat, but I just took a chance here because I know I put a lot of foam tape behind, so it should provide enough support for me to stamp and it won't be uneven. So I noticed my birthday's a little crooked, but that's okay. No one's going to notice. And just to finish it off, it looked a little empty. I grabbed some more embellishments from Trinity Stamps. I think they're called Shiny Baubles, and they're really cool because they're multicolored and different sizes. So I just scattered them around the top portion of the card panel, and it turns out to be really good because it adds that pop of color to complement the candies on the bottom and the candies inside the candy jar. So I just adhere that with some Connect glue and I'm good to go. So this card turned out to be so much more fun. I didn't come in with a plan and I didn't really expect me to go into the rainbow theme, but you know what? It's springtime and I feel like everyone needs a little bit of brightness in their life right now, especially since we're stuck inside and can't go outside. So I hope you enjoyed today's card and head over to Instagram to leave a comment for a chance to win that $25 gift card from Trinity Stamps. Hope you enjoy and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.